All right, and we're live. Welcome everybody to the Marketing Shtick, episode 13.
Lucky 13.
Lucky 13. Good thing it's not Friday. So with me today is Joe Norton. What's up, Joe? And Thomas Sands Jr. the third. What's up? I don't think I've ever called you that before. I always add
one extra suffix, I think.
Yeah, the third.
Yeah.
You're really the third, though, right?
Well, I'm one of three, but I'm a junior.
You're a junior. Okay, deal. The third of his name.
Uncle's kid, same name. It's,
it's all good.
All good. Yeah.
So, yeah, man, what a week. I don't know. It's not even over yet. We're halfway through the week, and already Paul Allen dies. Facebook is lying about their metrics. And we had a millennial interviewee freaking hang up on us in the middle of an interview.
I didn't get a chance to hear this story yet. I got to hear this.
Yeah, you know what? I am so glad Tommy was on the call with me because no one would have believed me that it happened. Like, I was supposed to interview her just by myself, and then I was running late. I was like, Tommy, could you just jump on and help me out? And he was like, yeah, I'll jump on. And at the end, I was like, did this really happen? I don't know. You guys want to jump into it?
What happened?
I don't know. You want to start it off, Tommy?
Sure. All right. So Bashar calls in, right? He was on the road. He got caught somewhere, right? So he had called in, and I was on the hangout with her. Everything was good. Comes in, conversations, right? We're going through, and Joe, you and I do a lot of interviews together too. So it's, pretty normal kind of dialogue, right? We're talking about how we sort of operate, kind of
how you work, what you do. Yeah.
Trying to find out, where somebody's, strengths lie, where their experiences lie, talk about, different things that are presented on resumes, right? What have you, right? Normal
stuff, vanilla
stuff. We went a little bit deeper maybe into some social type of things, and then some search stuff. And at some point in there was like a disconnect between like a comfort level of answers being given back to us and some other sort of things.
Tommy's being polite. So the interviewee started BSing their way through the answers.
And these are the technical questions about the platform, stuff like that.
Yeah. Like, what does impression share tell you? If you saw 80% impression share in a given account, what does that mean to you? What's a search query report? And then, so I don't know. I guess I could continue this on. So it's so at one point we get to a question where what does impression share mean? And she says, well, on both Facebook and AdWords or Google Ads, impression share tells you of how many people are clicking on your ads, which is, a very bad answer. Mm-hmm. So, and, we never implied that the answer was incorrect or anything. So I simply say, is impression share really a thing on Facebook? I'm not a Facebook or a paid social marketer, so I don't know all the metrics. So I was like, it was an honest question. Is that an available report or metric that Facebook reports on? And she said yes. And then she got triggered. And then she said, what did she say, Tommy?
I wasn't aware that this was going to be a big quiz.
I am no longer interested in learning more about your company.
I am no longer interested in discussing further about your company. And it was like the X on the hangout.
Oh my God.
I mean, like, what are people thinking? The definition of an interview, if you're listening to this show, an interview it's a quiz. It's a series of exploratory questions on both sides, the interviewee as well as the interviewer. They ask each other questions to determine and ascertain their fit. Do I know the content? Do I like the culture? Do I fit in? All those questions. And today was, or the interview that we had was pitched as a exploratory and technical, and that's, you know, Tommy's role and that kind of thing. So it's like when she hung up, I was like, Tommy, did I say something wrong? Like it was really so weird. And then we both started laughing, like we couldn't believe this actually happened.
What kind of expectations do you have if you're going into an interview and like you're turned off by questions about what you work on?
Yeah,
I don't understand what. Did she just think you guys were going to ask her name and what she
tell her when she's going to start?
Yeah, right.
So my
crazy,
thing,
man.
It was unbelievable.
Joe. Like,
I've never had that happen.
I didn't know there was going to be all kinds of questions here. What is this?
Yeah.
So to my thing is, it's totally fine in an interview to get to a point where you realize that the company that I'm interviewing with is not a fit and I have zero interest in working with them. That is totally fine. That's the purpose of the exercise.
Right.
Had she said, guys, the more I'm learning about this job or the more questions you're asking me, I'm realizing that we may not be compatible. This is not a fit for me. And I don't want to waste your time. I want to be respectful of my time and yours.
Experience that you guys are looking for, you know, something like that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And let's conclude this conversation. I would have had so much more respect for the candidate, but the way it was handled was terrible. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, since it happened, because it was just such a conflict, because I didn't see it coming. And largely because I couldn't see her. Tommy had the video chat up. I was on my phone. So what I was asking myself is, if that person was living with a partner or has a best friend and called that person or met with that person after the interview, and they said, well, I was just on an interview with this company and they asked me so many questions and I got irritated and I hung up on them. Like, what would that conversation be like, right? Like, as a good friend, what would you say?
I don't know.
Yeah.
She'd probably say that you guys were, you know, berating her with questions and hostile. I don't know. That is so odd. I just don't understand. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that she weeded herself out, right? Yeah. And I don't know. That's crazy.
There's also too the other point, the other side of the, you know, the situation is, you can also hit a point where maybe there's some content that you're not familiar with. Right. And you know, recognizing and you know, suggesting,
acknowledging it. Yeah.
Right. We've had people before who will tell us, you know what, I don't know about that, but I'll research it and I'll tell you about it next time we talk. And then when they do, that's a big plus, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Or they're looking to learn more, or I mean,
yeah.
Absolutely.
I think part of why we didn't see it coming is because we didn't think that the interview was going badly. We thought that she was doing a solid B job, and we were identifying the areas where her knowledge lacked. And as long as she has the right personality and approach, we would train her, right? Like, you don't always hire an individual that is super very well-rounded and understands and does everything the way the company does, right? So we invest in our people. But I think that was the biggest shocker, is because we thought things were passable, and then suddenly it was an outburst and a hang up. It was pretty bad. It was like a bad breakup. I don't know.
She got triggered. Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, no, it was. But we continue to look for a PPC and a paid advertising specialist. So if you are one and you're watching this show, we would love to speak with you about it. So yeah, but it wasn't all bad. This week is actually ups and downs. So while we did have this rejection and whatever you want to call it, this abrupt exit from the interview, it was a good week too. So we took on a new client that we're very excited about. They have very unique product. So I'll ask you guys. So if you're at a restaurant and you see someone choking, like, what is the first thing you do?
Well, I think of the Heimlich maneuver. Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is that Mrs. Doubtfire scene, where like, smashing the guy, the crimps popping out.
Yeah. No,
so I think it goes something like that.
You know, with as a person with a newborn child, I should go take a first aid class, because I was never trained on the Heimlich. My wife
There's
was.
a different one for newborns, right? Yeah.
There is, yeah. It's like you lean. She was explaining it to me. She went and took a first aid class. But so what this client does, they're called, their product is called the D-Choker. So choke, D-Choker. It's a really cool product. It looks like a pretty big syringe. You can check them out on at dchoker.com. Don't judge the website. We haven't touched it yet. Part of it is doing a website refresh. But yeah, so it's almost like a big syringe with an oxygen mask. So the mask goes on and seals around the thing, and the plastic tube goes over the tongue, and then you pull the syringe, and it almost like a plunge. Like I think you said it the other day, Joe. It says like a plunger for your mouth.
Kind of plunger effect. Yeah.
It plungers the obstruction out of your throat. And they have a product for like toddlers, children's, and adult, which, you know, individuals who are most likely to have. Everybody can have a choking hazard. But yeah, so it's really interesting. But when they came to us and started the conversation, what was really interesting is that it's a product in a category that doesn't exist, right? So when I asked you what you would do if someone was choking, you'd go for
the device we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So their idea is that this becomes a go-to first aid, first response device. I don't know what it's called, but when you're at the mall, you see the red box or what,
the defibrillators, those kinds of things.
Yeah. So that's you know, available. The public knows it exists. If someone's having a heart attack or cardiac arrest, you know, you can do that. Parents have the EpiPen, right? Like to me, this is like an EpiPen. Like we would approach it similarly. So, you know, a kid is having an anaphylactic shock, you know, you give them I'm guessing that's how the action goes.
Yeah. We had one for my sister because she was allergic to shrimp real bad. Yeah, so we always carried one of those around. Yeah,
so it's like the EpiPen. So there's an aspect of reprogramming and educating the consumer on it, because people go for the Heimlich. They don't know this product category exists. So that's an interesting thing. Like, how do you market a product that people aren't searching for?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of unique considerations for this particular product. You know, there's a whole way you have to attack an industry that doesn't really have an acknowledged, you know, product or your market leader kind of yet. But I think for this particular one, like there are some things about the Heimlich maneuver that people acknowledge like are not good. People don't perform it correctly a lot of the time. I know that people end up with like broken ribs sometimes. Sometimes people are worried about like mouth-to-mouth contact. So there's lots of, even though it's like you know, you don't need a device. Anyone can perform this maneuver. It does have its faults, and it's often not performed correctly.
The individual could be incapacitated on the floor, and you don't have the strength to lift them, right?
Or to thrust hard enough.
Like if you're a petite woman dealing with a 300-pound man, or woman for that matter.
And
like
Joe touched on a point that was really interesting. It's something I was just thinking about, was this whole idea of
being like, close to someone.
Yeah, the interaction between people, and you know, like the first thing you do in first aid is put gloves on, and you know, does this give you more of a comfort of, you know, I can do this. I don't have to have you know, this much of a contact. Helping a stranger, perhaps, or you know, is that a comfort for some people? That I know there's a better word. It's more sanitary, or
sanitary.
I don't know if that's correct. I'm not a medical guy, but
hygienic, sanitary.
Right. All that, you know, and also whatever somebody might be bringing to the table themselves.
Right. Yeah. You could be in a confined space too. Like, think of it this way. You're sitting in a train. Like I take Amtrak, and I sit sometimes in the food wagon. And it's bench seating, and people sit 3 deep, right? So the person near the window is having this. There's no way, such close quarters, and everybody has luggage and jackets and whatnot. Like, you can't get that person out into a position to perform the Heimlich. Nor does it always work. When I was telling Marie about it, because the product resonated very well with me, because that's one of our concerns with Sophia, is that now that she's starting to eat solids, she's choked a few times, and not to the point where we need to perform the Heimlich, but like flip her over and help her get whatever, like a big bite of a piece of bread or something. But what Marie brought up is sometimes kids eat like balloons or latex or any rubber compound where the Heimlich is proven not to work on those types of choking. And a product like this plunger would totally work on that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I didn't even think of that. So it got me thinking. So a product that does not have that, if we were to think tactically, how would we create that education? How would we create that interest and curiosity in the product that parents may not even know about? Like what tools at our disposals do we have?
I think the most obvious thing is, like, if you look at the sales funnel, there's not going to be anyone at the bottom like ready to purchase because they don't really know about this thing yet. So I think a lot of the marketing has to be focused around the top parts of the funnel, about education, about letting people know about the problems with the Heimlich maneuver, and where this product is superior.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have to create the market,
create the demand. Yeah, which costs a lot of money, right? Because you're going pretty wide.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, tactically speaking, and we know this from working with lots of, variety of advertisers, we can try to also, you talked about this three sort of application categories, right? Infants, toddlers, and then adults.
Yep.
So I think there's different ways that you can approach, the marketing in some of those, specifically around the younger audiences, right? We know that we have lots of tools to identify parents and, parents of certain age groups and all these different things. And we understand some of their general online behaviors and how to sort of get in front of them. But I think there's also the element of creating and aligning with other content, right, around the web, around where is the general audience already?
Right, where they're hanging out.
And where can we touch them as close to relevant? Because it's one thing we can say, all right, we want to reach every mom of a toddler, right? That's fine. But if she's off, reading about a latest, some trend or,
stroller, like the newest stroller that just came out that is portable and lightweight.
Right. See, now that feels like maybe that's an opportunity to say, you're looking at the safety of this and that. That's a close relevant, but not when she's looking at some new dress line or right. So there might be some fine tuning there to connect the dots, but there's lots of opportunity to where we can work to identify the general, who's going to buy this, and fortunately it's anybody with a child, right?
Right.
Potentially, or
anybody caring for an elder, or anybody,
anybody that's eating, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah,
about the elderly. Nursing home stuff like that would be huge.
I think initially we start where we know, right, you can make the most impact, and where we feel the most comfortable that we can connect the dots, and there's lots of things we can do.
I think you said a couple of things that are interesting. I think the complementary product thing is really cool. So we can identify parents looking like my wife. She was looking for a first aid class for a baby first aid class. So co-marketing towards those keywords, right? Where, and I'm talking just paid search, bidding on those keywords and that kind of thing, and creating relevant enough landing pages where we don't get killed on the CPC. But that could be an interesting area. Obviously, YouTube and Facebook allow us to target parents of children of certain ages, so that's a no-brainer going after that. But
and also content segments too, child safety, and there'll be lots of that.
Yeah.
Those type of things.
Yeah, or even like even educational content where they're not looking for a product. Like, is my baby ready to start eating solids? Right, because that's the biggest fear. Like, at least for me, because I'm knee deep in it. Like, that's where my fears start. That moment when you're taking a baby from drinking liquids to receiving their nutrients through solid foods. Like, that's the one area where they start. Like, the first time we fed her, like the moment she looked like she was going to cough, we freaked out. So, so capitalizing on parent fears, I guess, is a really good approach.
Tactic. It certainly won't,
But you also said that going after the area or the market that we can have most impact. And I think for us, we perceive that to be children. We have many children products that we market already, so we understand how to reach that audience. But I wonder, in the US, are there more elderly? So let's define an elderly over, we're going to be very cautious here
I
how
think
we
there
define
are,
this.
right? If we look at population trends, the boomers was huge generation, and they're getting pretty old now.
Yeah, so like 65 plus, are there more 65 plus than like I would say at 7 years old? I'm guessing, like I'm drawing a line there for some reason, under 7. Like, are there more people under 7 years old than people 65 plus? That would be really interesting if we look at our population graph, like the outside edges, because that tells you what the market size, right? Like I'm assuming everybody over 65 is a geriatric and can't swallow their food. So we're
looks
probably
like we have about 19% 0 to 14 years, 65% or 15 to 64, and then 15.5% are 65 plus.
So 14% and 15%? Is that what you're talking about?
It's like 19% 65 and then like 15.
19 and 15. So the children's market is slightly bigger then.
Yeah.
Now, I'm willing to bet that if we look at households, the elderly would be more because people probably have multiple kids in one household.
That's true.
You're marketing one household.
You're marketing one household. They only need one device.
That's true.
Or, well, yeah. But it's less. We're not targeting the kids.
Right.
The parents.
Right. We're targeting the parents. So that number would be smaller. That's a good point. Huh. All right.
We're gonna interesting products.
Gonna have to.
There's lots of different potential audiences.
Now they are international too. That's one thing. So they do sell like in Europe and that kind of thing. So we have to look at global.
I think we've also talked about that. There's sort of an established process whereby some of their TV creatives and whatnot already drive people toward a sale, right? So there'd be some support efforts around some of that, and then also, so I think there's like a multi-threaded strategic effort around, to Joe's point, where are they at in the funnel, and I think we're gonna have different touch points.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I'm thinking like in the long run. So, for example, I'm thinking back to my childhood. My mom used to teach CPR for Red Cross. She used to haul mannequins around and do demonstrations. And I'm thinking, like, why doesn't Red Cross have de-chokers? Like,
it's a new product, and we're still learning about its FDA compliances and approvals and all that. Both my brother and my sister-in-law are internal medicine doctors, and I brought this up to them, and they asked me like 1,000,001 questions about clinical trials and different reportings,
different certifications, and
injuries of people using it and all sorts of stuff. So I think we have a lot to learn as far as where it is in its life cycle as a medical device. But they are FDA registered, for that matter, for whatever that's worth. Now, FDA approved for certain conditions. That's a different story, a much more difficult criteria to achieve. But yeah, it's really, really interesting. I have to figure, given that Halloween is
an exciting one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I should ask them to send us some samples so I can incorporate into my Halloween outfit. I'll be a de-choker for Halloween. Yeah. So episode 13 and Halloween is right around the corner. What are you guys doing?
Actually, funny we mention it, the 13th, because there's new Friday the 13th.
Is there?
Coming out? Yeah. And it's supposed to be really good. I'm kind of excited to see it.
I'll be sitting here watching some Twitch, and that song comes on. I'm not watching, but I'll like have something on the background on some other screen, and I start hearing that Michael Myers music. I still get like
chills.
A little bit. I'm like looking out the windows, like
that's funny.
Like whoever composed that was just a genius.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, it's been made it through the test of time for sure.
Right? It's right up there with like the Jaws sound effects.
Yeah.
There's a couple of movie sound effects that
you can just never forget them.
Yeah,
they're ingrained in society right now.
That's so crazy. Yeah,
but
I don't.
You don't participate?
I'm not walking around collecting candy with my dog, so I don't really do the trick or treat thing myself.
Come on, you can dress up your dog.
No, I could for sure.
It's a big market now. I was just reading an article about how it's like a $500 million industry now. Dog costumes.
Well, dogs replace kids in a lot of households.
Yep,
that was the case in my household.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So I'm not. I mean, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Is this due to the Instagram movement, I guess, and just kind of the whole social media trend of everyone wanting to kind of broadcast their life? And like, is that part of why this is surging, this market?
If you didn't show people, would you do it?
Right.
I mean, the dog is not going to know that.
Right. It's not for trick or
treating. Right. Yeah. It's I don't know households that are giving out dog bones and milk bones to doggies, right?
I would give out bones if people brought cute dogs here.
You would? We're trick or treating in the wrong neighborhood then. But yeah, no, it is a huge market.
Maybe that's a new trend.
I think it's been a trend for a few years now, but I think it's growing, right? Well, not giving out treats, but dressing up your dogs.
So it's doubled since 2010. So it was doing 250 million in 2010. Now it's doing 500 million.
I mean, 500 million, that's significant. I don't shop at the Halloween store. You know, these Halloween stores that pop up temporarily in different places.
Yep.
I wonder, they must have a corner for pets where they have pet costumes.
They should.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure they do.
If they don't, they're missing out. Yeah.
But it's crazy, and like I know for us, we were a pet household up until Sophia was born 9 months ago. So Marie always dressed up Ziggy and took pictures of him. Man, she dressed him up for Shark Week and took pictures. But the question, and he's always like, he gets into this thing where he doesn't move. He put this on. What the hell is this thing on me? And he just sits there like a statue. It's hysterical. But this year she went a little crazy. So she bought Sophia a couple outfits, and she bought Ziggy like matching or complementary outfits. So now
it's a pair.
They're a duo. Yeah.
And she's buying more. So I think that's when you have pets and children, that's like a force multiplier. It's not just 1 + 1.
Exponential.
It's exponential growth and exponential spending. I have to find out what she spent on Halloween this year. It's her favorite holiday. But
I have some fond memories of I dressed up like a girl one year. How about that? When it wasn't like
when I was a teenager, I did that.
Yeah, Halloween. I think I wore my sister's cheerleading costume.
Yeah.
Had a wig and the whole night.
That must have been funny.
Maybe I wore a dress or something, but
that's interesting. Nowadays no one would dare do that because you'd get bullied and stuff. It's crazy world we live in. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think boys should be allowed to express their femininity when they feel it. It's part of development.
Absolutely.
On that point, so do you have any pictures, Tommy, from when you did that? Can you please share them with the team?
Yeah. If I can find one, I'm sure we can do that.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm sure, I've embarrassed myself worse on some karaoke stage somewhere. So
that's true.
It's okay.
You know what? Here you go. We should have a karaoke dress-up Halloween party.
That would be fun.
Yeah. You'd probably pull off a good Tina Turner, Tommy.
We'll give it a shot.
Man, the karaoke thing. So I've done karaoke with you guys a couple times, and even though I've sung there, I didn't think it was my worst performance. My worst performance was back in college. I went to like this economics kind of summit conference, kind of like a week-long thing in Auburn, Alabama. And one night we went out after like a bunch of lectures about economics all day. A bunch of economists went to a bar and did karaoke.
Sounds like the beginning of a joke. A bunch of economists went to a bar.
Yeah. Well, the end of this joke is me doing Brown Eyed Girl karaoke. It was a disaster. But what was good was that I was never going to see any of these people ever again.
Right.
So I really wasn't worried about it whatsoever. While I was doing it, I knew it was terrible. but I wasn't too worried.
Oh man, my worst performance was after several drinks. My buddy and I tied up our shirts like Britney Spears at the time, and did "Oops, I Did It Again."
Oh no!
And Marie and I were dating at the point. She actually stood up and left the bar. She was like, "No, I'm not going to be seen."
Oh my god!
Yeah, karaoke confessions on the next episode.
Well, I think we're up against our time frame here, but if you have a crazy karaoke story that you want to share with us, please comment on this video, and don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you on episode 14 of the Marketing Shtick. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you guys for co-hosting.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.